Okay, before we get started in this impact review, I'm going to see if I can make, and I've already stated this before, I know about Gail Kim being fired. I know about Saraya being fired. I am going to see if I can do a video on both of them for Gump Report. So you don't need to tell me, dude, do you know about this? I know. Excuse me. Woo, my allergies are messing with me. I'm going to be doing a separate Gump Report, hopefully tomorrow. If there's no problems or anything, I got some things I need to do. I will see if I can get it done. So hopefully you watch for it and you'll see it. Because I'm not going to be doing, possibly not be doing a SmackDown review. I'm not sure if I'm going to want to do it. I might. But if I'm not doing a SmackDown review, I'm hoping to do a Gump Report of Gail Kim and Saraya. So there you go. But let's make this very clear what we got here on this show. We got until April 27th before we get Rebellion. I'm going to make this clear. I know there are people who love comedic overtones and undertones in wrestling. There's some people who do. There's one person who doesn't show up on my chat. Well, not. Who doesn't show up in my comments anymore because of one particular person doesn't exist anymore, and that is Johnny Swinger. Johnny is not there, and he's not around because he's not there. So he loved Johnny Swinger. But there are people who do like the undertones of comedic attributes in wrestling. And here we got somewhat of a good amount of it. And I know not everyone is totally fond of it. And they're going to be saying, what is TNA doing? Aren't we supposed to get a much more serious TNA? Because that's what they promised us. And that's true. But now with the change, again, I did warn all of you. I want to make this clear. I'm not going to mention it again throughout this show. But I said this to you last year. Watch what we're getting. Because we do not know how far this is going to go with TNA and if it's going to be good. So seeing this, and particularly in El Paso, Texas, where we got, well, we didn't get something bad. We just got a show that has comedic attributes in it. Let's start with, what did we get when it came to, this is kind of hard. Because I just want to jump to it instead of going for the match. But when you see the tag champs, the Ashes, go up against Gigi Golan as well as Tana Paxley, you know what this is all about. They're trying to drum up more interest in women's tag team wrestling, not just for TNA, but TKO NXT. That is what its purpose is. Because they want to show that women are being utilized in both companies. But if you're going to be honest, who has been utilizing women a lot more than one company and over the other? And that was originally TNA. Now, of course, TKO WWE, they're the ones that everyone sees that shows more interest in women, even though TNA has historically done it a lot more than them. Just in case no one has ever heard this. I'm sure whoever watches me knows this already, but just in case a few people are new to wrestling, I still got to mention it. Guys, I got to still mention this. Just so people who are new to wrestling, because as time goes on, when we see TKO WWE, more people are going to get back into wrestling, or more people are going to get into wrestling. It's going to be trendy. So I got to mention this kind of stuff, even if you don't mind it, or, oh, I got to hear this again. I still got to do it. But seeing this right now, it is obvious that they're trying to bring up women's pro wrestling, particularly tag team wrestling. Is it good? No. Both companies have not done good with both their titles. Both their tag titles suck. No lie. No cap. That's the truth. They have not promoted the women properly, and the storylines have sucked. And then it just feels played out at this point for both TNA's tag champions as well as for WWE's tag champions. But there's a difference between when it came to, well, Raquel Rodriguez as well as for Liv Morgan. They're not comedic. The Ashes are. And that's what they generally are. They're comedic wrestlers. that are currently tag champions. So this is where there's a bit of a difference. Doesn't mean it's great. It's just what we got. The match itself was fine. But this was not about the match. This was about seeing that Ash was going to finally get to blow out her candle because she didn't get it last week. And when the match was over, what did we get? We get her sitting, about to do what she wanted to do. She wanted to blow out the candles. The guys were setting up. The guys topless, setting up the table, setting up for her to blow it out. And what happened? Gigi Golan and Tatum Paxley, who were pissed off because they pretty much cheated to win, noggin knocked both of Ash and Heather, and then took Ash's face and just splashed it into the cake. Cake face. That's what I'm calling it. I know I can wait until the end of this, but why not just do it now? There's no point in not doing it. Let's make it very clear. Any guy is going to want to lick that mess off of her. Any guy is going to lick anything off of her. Let's be honest. This is Ash. You're not telling me you wouldn't lick every little bit of that cake off of every part of her body. You would. So it's not something that we don't see in this type of situation. Now, am I happy this segment happened? It was average to a point of being funny. But it does lead to what we're dealing with here, because after it was over, Ash made it very clear to Heather and Iceman. I know he'd be called the concierge, but his name was Iceman at one point. He was on Twitch. He called himself the Iceman. I still remember him as Iceman, even though it's 10 years, well, not 10 years, say about 7 years or 6 years ago, he used to do that. But he and Heather were told, get this straightened out. She's going on vacation. Am I interested in seeing what Ash and the concierge is going to do? Yes, because this is comedic wrestling. Now, let's move on to the second group of comedic wrestlers. We got Casey Navarra. We have AJ Francis. And he went up against, I don't want to say that Kaz is a comedic wrestler. He's not. But we get Chavo, the Aztec Warriors, in the match. And let's make this very clear. I know not everyone likes Chavo Guerrero. When he was wrestling constantly, they never thought he was one of the best wrestlers. They thought he was just average at best. But I've always seen Chavo as somebody who is very consistent. He may not be the best up here like Eddie was. He was here, but he was consistent. And that is the thing I can say about Chavo. He was always consistent. And that's one of the things that's important in pro wrestling. A wrestler who can be as consistent as possible. It's not about being dull. It's about being consistent about your performance in the ring and your performance when it comes to doing your promo segments, any character development, as well as any storylines you're in. Chavo's always been very sporadic when it came to his storylines. He never had great mic skills, but he didn't have bad ones either. So he was always consistently above average to good. To pretty good. To me personally, pretty good. Not great, but average to pretty good. He can always float between there for me personally. Other people are always going to be different. He still looks good in the ring. So that means that he's probably still been wrestling maybe in AAA, maybe in MLW, I don't know, maybe. But probably AAA is where he's been working. And he still looked very good. He's in his 50s right now, easily. He's my age, or maybe a little bit older, a little younger. I don't remember. I don't remember how old he is. He's got to be in his mid-50s at this point. Still wrestles very well. He actually was able to still do a helo when he was in the ring fighting in that match. And in the end, I was not surprised that Chavo was the one to get the win. Look, he's Eddie's nephew, not brother. He's Eddie's nephew, but actually, I should take that back. Even though he's Eddie's nephew, they grew up like brothers. That is the best way to say it. I got nephews myself that literally maybe a couple of years younger than me or maybe a few years older than me. I'm pretty much almost the same ages as my older half-sister's children, legitimately. So I can understand being an uncle who have nephews who are either my age or a little younger, or a little older by at least a couple of years, legitimately. So seeing this is not too surprising. And I'm alright with it. But the question is, how many more episodes in El Paso do we have from TNA? I do not know. Maybe 2 more. Or 1 more. I don't know. This might be the last one, but I think at least be 1 or 2 more. But since they've been in El Paso, the crowds have been mostly lively, and it hasn't been too bad. Now, mind you, we've had back-to-back-to-back El Paso recordings, and you can hear the fans going from here, going down, because they've been doing this more than a few times, and you can lose interest pretty easily. But they've done pretty well. Next, we got, and I gotta say this was the best match I've ever seen of her. JC James versus a Marsha Slamovich. This was the best match I've ever seen JC James do. And I've never been a JC James fan. Not much. I mean, I don't hate her, but I'm not a fan of her. I know she did pretty well with Toxic Attraction, and then Fatal Influences has its moments. It's been pretty good, particularly when she was working in Chase U. But her ring work has always been okay. Here, this is the best work I've ever seen her do. The best. Being in TNA, I think, lit a fire under her ass to actually do a performance that she's never done in NXT. And I know everyone else won't agree with me, but this is the best outing I've ever seen for her. Now, does that mean she's going to keep it up in NXT? I don't know. But here, this is the best I've ever seen her do. And to be honest, and this is honesty, if she left NXT and left WWE, she should come to TNA because it may fit her. She has the personality a TNA wrestler could do. Now, this match had a Tessa Blanchard barred from ringside, and she stayed off until Marsha won, and then she beat the crap out of her. And then after that, we get Xia Brookside and Ling Lang Lee showing up, trying to stop her. And then you see something interesting. 2 women that look like they could actually be a tag team. You see Tessa after she beat up on Marsha, and you see a JC James after getting beaten and snowplowed. And they're looking at each other and they're going like, you know what? Okay, I see you. You can see Tessa saying, I see you. I see you. So this was actually a good moment. Now, we're now going to get a match where we're going to have JC James, Tessa Blanchard, a mystery partner with Ling Yang Lee, Xia Brookside, and Marsha. Do I want to see a 6 knockout tag? No, I want more story. I'm sorry. I know people are going to like to see the match, but let's make this very clear. The person who needs more development and more story is fucking Tessa. Tessa needs more story. She needs more. Let's make it very clear. She's only gone up against 2 women. 2. And if she gets a title shot at Rebellion in the next couple of weeks, this is bullshit. She should have gone through the roster. I don't care what anybody says. They got too many heels there. It's not the point. Tessa said that she's better than any woman there. It doesn't matter if they're a heel. It doesn't matter if they're a face. She needs to go up against them all to prove how she is. Because she's only going up against Jordan Grace and Ling Yang Lee. That means bullshit. If you agree with this, more power to you. But to me, that's garbage. And if she actually gets a title shot, whether she wins or loses, it's garbage. It's stupid. It's garbage. She deserves better development than just to be thrown at the title. And if she wins, it'll make it worse. If she loses, it doesn't help her either. I'm just saying. Nick, moving on. Eric Young versus Ace Austin. The first time. I never realized they never faced each other in all the years they were together. Go figure. Wasn't a bad match. But this wasn't about the match itself. This was about trying to get Macklin to understand that, see the truth of this. See loyalty. He's still trying to convince Macklin to join the Northern Armory to deal with Williams and Icarus. And I don't see it happening without something triggering it. I don't know what it is, but something has to trigger it. Now, Eric did win. Of course, he did win. There was no beatdown afterward. But this is still about showing Macklin unity. See, we are a unit, like you're used to. And there's going to be a war, I believe. There's got to be something that's added to it, and I don't know what it is. Next, which is let me see, is that everything? I forgot to say that the JC James match, that was non-title. What happened with the Ashes, when it was Tatum Paxley and Gigi Dolan, that was non-title as well. So there was no titles on the line at that time. Now, we got Nick Nimitz and Leon Slater. Now, let's just jump to the end. Leon Slater did a good job. We got the Hardys coming out and making it very, very clear that they want a piece of the Nimitz brothers. But they're not cleared yet until Rebellion, so they're going to have that match there. Fine. But I got to say this. When it came to Leon Slater, when you look at Leon, he can remind you of a Devon Evans when he first started out. Because Devon was here. It's not about how great of a high-flying wrestler Devon was. Because I could tell you honestly, Devon Evans, compared to Leon Slater, Leon is just slightly better. He's slightly better. They're both about basically the same age. One was in America, one's from the UK. But you can see that Leon's a little bit better than Devon Evans. But Devon Evans has had the gift of development. He's gone through working with Trick Williams. He's gone through working with Ethan Page. And because he's had those wars there, you can see the development is much better than Leon. Leon basically is where, well, I'm not saying that he doesn't have charisma. Because to be honest, the charisma of Leon Slater is actually better than Devon Evans. But Leon has no development. He's not been on TV. He's not been on Impact. So he is here. This is Leon Slater. This is Devon Evans. Devon has been given Randy Orton. He's been given the ability to go up against Ethan Page, work with Trick Williams, work with so many other people that at least he's had exposure. So at least he knows, to a certain extent, how to work a match now. Because he didn't know how to work a match. He was just a spot man. That's all. But Leon is different. Because Leon Slater, from what few times he has been seen, he does understand psychology and he does have character. He does have charisma and he does have a certain level of character. Does it mean it's fully developed? No. And I want to make this clear. During that match with Nick, he did a good job of trying to sell getting injured. Did he do it great? No. But at least he understood that better than Leon did when he first started and was just wrestling. And then just high-flying his head off, flipping everywhere, but not really selling enough to make the other person show that they had to fight to even do anything against Leon. Or worse yet, that Leon had to understand, excuse me, how to sell so he could at least make it look good. Instead of just going from one spot to another spot, to another spot, to another spot. I can say at least Leon's already there. He understands at least the basics of selling. So I will say, in a sense, if you're going to see who is better when they first started in their company and was being spotlighted, it is Leon. But who is more developed at this time? It is Devon. Devon is more developed than Leon. Leon has no storylines yet. He's had no general development on his character. Yes, he can sell better than Devon, but it does not mean he is better than Devon. I still have to point that out. Now, let me give it to you like this. The two more segments we got left. The singing segments with Elijah and seeing a bassman in a Kaz after he did his match. It was funny. It was interesting. And they're trying to set up the, well, will Elijah turn on Joe Henry type of thing. I'm not going to tell you it's bad. But it is something that both these guys work on. Look, they're both musicians to a certain extent, and they both have characters that look like this could go wrong or this can go right. So that's the reason why they're going there. Now, do I want to see Joe Henry working with Elijah in this situation? No. I'm going to tell you why. Seeing Elijah, I'm glad to see Elias working. But working with the current champion who should be here, and Elijah is here, kind of brings him down a little bit. And to be honest, he needs more. One of the things that really made Joe Henry great was because he also went over to NXT. And we have not seen him there for a while. Other than when he went, did a few spots in NXT, then went into Royal Rumble. And pretty much that's basically it, except for a couple other times working with Ethan, if I'm remembering correctly. So he just went from here to here a little bit. And that's the truth. It's not against Elijah. It's just that you just brought somebody in who was doing the same thing that Joe Henry was doing, but earlier. And there are going to be people who's going to compare them. And sooner or later, they're going to go down that road where both of them are going to start singing against each other and trying to go against each other. It's going to happen. So I kind of wish they wouldn't do it now. I would have wished that Elijah would have his own feud with somebody else and he could build himself up so you can still keep Joe Henry here. You can do Elijah, bring him up, and then when you finally have to bring them together, because they're both musicians, they both know how to play guitar, even though you can say maybe Joe Henry's better than Elijah or Elijah's more better than Joe Henry. It don't make a difference. I just wish they had done it like that. Not just bring Elijah in and then you bring down Joe Henry. I wasn't fond of that. Now, I don't know when they're going to finally get Kaz to do the Call of a Shot gauntlet match. In other words, finally have a match when he cashes in his cup. I don't know when, but it's got to come sooner or later because it's kind of getting a little tiring. Let's go to the last thing I'm going to talk about, and that's the war words. Warner and Sammy. What did we just get there? They're both handcuffed and they're both yelling at each other, saying they want to kill one another. Okay, but what are you going to do to make this interesting? There's only one thing. The Digital Media Championship. That's what this is coming down to. What we got in the war of words. And seeing that Steph DeLander froze that supposedly hot coffee into Sammy's face because he's calling her kind of like a skank. And she said, "Are you still hitting on me? You need to cool down." Splat. There you go. But this is going to have to come down to that damn title. But here's the thing. And this is what sucks. I would have rather seen them fight over not the Digital Media Championship, but the Intercontinental. I know PCO's not there. I know. But he had a title that had prestige. He had a title that was created back in the 1930s. And even though there was no company anymore, you should have kept it and turned it into the TNA. I know they wouldn't have been able to get away with it when it comes to TKO WWE because they're doing Intercontinental Championship. They could have called it the TNA Intercontinental title or Intercontinental something. They could have done something with that title. It's debunked. It has no company connected to it. And I would have liked the prestige of a real legacy title than this Digital Media Championship title that has no legacy. Yes, I know that the first person to win it, and I know. I know when it comes to Jordan Grace, she won it. And I know when it came to Matt Cardona, he won it. I'd rather see them retire that title and really use that International Heavyweight Championship somehow integrated into TNA. They had the title, it had no prestige, and they could have done something with it. And here, they're still using the same stupid stuff. And they could have used some name, something something. They could have maybe worked something out with WWE, saying we want to use this title. It is Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship. We want to name it something. We don't want to start having any conflicts with you, but we want to name this. We want to let you know ahead of time. That would have been better, but this is just me. I hope you enjoy this. I will see if I can get my gut report on Gail Kim and Saraya hopefully tomorrow. Peace.